Yeah, I guess do that. I don't even know if there's sound to this. There's no sound. Oh, I assume it's just my voice is going. Trying a new countdown, ladies and gentlemen, and that's just how it goes. Okay. Oh, we're live. Okay. You didn't warn me, Beckett. Okay. Anyway, welcome to another live stream, another Retainer Designer. My name is Cade. Welcome to the Retainer Designer YouTube page, and we do our Friday live stream. And today I was trying to find some stuff to do some live stream of, and my thought was, well, let me bend some wire and do some acrylic this time, because I did wire last time. But then I got this one case here, and I was like, oh, that's going to be a lot of prep work before I can even get to wire bending. And so I was thinking, you know what, let me just show me prepping this and bending it, because it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge one. So I thought I'd bring y'all along and let y'all have a preview of how I would go about doing something like this. So, Beckett, I don't know, are the other cameras working, I guess? Yeah. Okay, all right, sorry for the late start, everybody. I didn't charge any of my phones, so I had to go plug them all in. And I'm using mainly phones for live streaming. This one is just a camera, it's all plugged in. But other than that, we're good. So let's get started. Let me know in the comments below if y'all can't hear, and I will try to make some adjustments. But oh, we do have someone. Hello, Amy. Nice to have you join us. So anyway, let's switch this camera here. If you can see this, Beck. Yeah. Let me zoom in a bit, and then turn down the. All right. So what I got from this, let me cover the patient name here. This is what I got from the doctors. Is they want a lower Holly retainer. This is their standard one where they go 4 to 4, and with a labial acrylic and a pontic tooth there, which is very challenging to put a pontic tooth and bend a wire around it. But as you can see on here, we're also dealing with an ankylosed tooth right here. And if y'all don't know what an ankylosed tooth, that's pretty much a tooth that has fused to the jaw. Or it could just be a baby tooth that hadn't fallen out yet. But from the looks of it, it looks ankylosed. It looks very... let's see if I can get this in the picture. There we go. It looks very fused to the bone there. So yeah, we're having this patient's having a hard time. Now, I usually have these brackets automatically removed with EasyRx auto bracket removal, but for some reason we didn't do it on this one. I don't know if it got rejected because of the missing tooth. It couldn't figure out, which teeth are which. So I'm going to be removing these brackets. I'm going to be putting a pontic in there, and then we'll be waxing everything out, prepping it, getting it ready for bending, and we'll bend it. So just maybe this will help out some of you out there that run into cases like this. Sometimes it's not hard. It's just a matter of the steps you take are very important, especially when you get to where you're doing the separator and stuff. So Without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start by clipping off these supports here. There we go. And then I have a handpiece here with a fine tooth burr. And I'm going to put a mask on. I don't know if you can see in the camera, so if my voice changes. Usually I do these under a dust box, but it's way over there and I don't want to go to it. I'll just do it right here. I'm gonna, first off, I'm gonna remove the name so y'all can't see that. And then, yeah. Can you hear me? Oh, I had to move up, yeah. All right, so let's, I'm going to take these brackets off. Again, like I said, EasyRx usually takes these off automatically, but I'm gonna go ahead and take these off. For some reason, they got printed with the brackets still on, which is okay. I can. Comment. Okay. How long does it take to print a 3D model? Is it quicker than the original way? Yeah, 3D printed models, my printers, this one would probably take an hour to 3D print. That doesn't include the prepping time. Now, it helps with EasyRx and it doing the auto base. So this is the auto base. So they come in a shell of a scan. And so EasyRx auto bases and auto brackets removal. So that saves minutes for me. But it depends on the printer for sure. There are faster printers out there than mine. I have a Formlabs 3. I have a Formlab Form 3 as my printer. And it does a pretty good job. It can print like a horseshoe model like you would use for, let's see, I got one in here. Like this, a horseshoe model like this. It can print one of these maybe in about 30, 40 minutes. As far as faster than the old way, some printers might be just as fast as pouring up in stone. You know, with stone, what is it, 15 minutes and it's set up? So it's, I would say it's slower than the original way, especially if you're used to receiving stone models. Get this out of here. There we go. Blow this off. So I have now smoothed those off. So I think I did an alright job. I can see a little bit of glue here still. Burlap. What is it? What? Burlap? No. What? Oh, move your hands up. Okay. Sorry. Actually, let me adjust this camera while I'm thinking about it. I got to get it in my sweet ergonomic spot like this. Still not there. Wow. Oh, well. So we have, yeah, so Amy, hopefully that answered your question. Oh, I'm glad you can hear me just fine. But, yeah, it's about probably one like this or a full pallet. It all depends on the height. If you go back a few weeks, I did a live stream on a hollow versus solid models, and I talk about the height of the print time. So I'll talk about print time and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it does take a little bit of time, depending on how fast your stone with the old method would set up as compared to this way. Let me take my mask off. Get a drink. So now I'm just gonna wax out some undercuts here. The main undercut I'm waxing out is this bonded lingual that's already in here. So this doctor, this is probably pretty smart. Of course, this doctor is pretty smart. You know, keeping these all bonded together so that they don't drift. because if there's no tooth here, this one may drift distally and get in the way. So he's got them all bonded together so they don't drift apart. So the reason I had to remove the brackets was some doctors like to take a scan before, an impression before they're done with their treatment. And then the next time they come in, they'll have a retainer that's ready to go, ready to be, inserted in the mouth. And all I have to do is charge. I can't keep a hold of that. All I have to do is remove the brackets, and I do charge for that because it, as you can see, it did take a few minutes to do that. And in this case, they want a labial acrylic, so I had to make sure, charge extra for that because that takes a little bit more time, and you can't be 100% accurate. Now I am waxing out a lot of this lingual stuff, lots of undercuts here. There we go. And I'll put a little bit in between the teeth when there's a labial acrylic. To me, that just helps with the release of it, that the acrylic doesn't get too far deep in there. And go ahead and wax this out just in case acrylic gets in there and locks itself in. And I'm going to wax out around this ankylosed tooth. There we go. All right, now usually at this point I would paint this model, but I'm not going to do that because I need to fit that pontic in there. Now I have some ponics here that I would use in this case for a lower posterior. So this is a card you get from I order these from JBC and Company, and they're just from the fours back, the first bicuspid's back. And so this is a lower posterior card. And I would usually take this and put it in here. But this is not the correct shade. They've asked for a 66 shade, not a 62. So what I had to do was get out of the pressure pot. Oh, went to the ducts. Oh, I forgot about the ducts. I was so frustrated with the camera angles on the ducts that I didn't get a good angle. But they're in there. They got some fresh water. They're cooling off. It's like 90-something degrees here in Texas, and it's not fun. But anyway, while you got this camera up, Beckett, I don't know if you can see this. Actually, switch it back. Yeah. So what I've done is I take this card when I need to, and in this case it works, and for ponics it works really good, is if I'm in the wrong shade and I don't carry the right shade, and usually these posterior ones I can do this more readily than the anterior ones, because the anterior ones have a lot more clear coat, like enamel looking stuff on it and stuff, and this is more flat. But let me get to what I'm talking about. I'm going to remove this. So I have a tooth. And what did I do? I took one of these and I made a mold. Now, how did I do that? Switch the cameras to this one. Beck. I have this 2-part mold system. And this is from Jericho. Siliform is the brand name of it, and it's 2-part, and I get equal parts and I mix them together, and I create a little ball, and I take one of these, and it's like Play-Doh, and I take one of these teeth in here and I shove it into that little ball, and it creates a mold of one of those teeth. So you can see here, these are all my tooth molds for the upper. So I've done this a lot. So it's great when you need to just mainly teeth for ponics, because the clear on the ponic will create an enamel layer, a clear enamel layer. But this little box here is I keep a couple boxes of tooth molds. So whenever I need to create another tooth out of tooth powder, and let me get to that. So I get this from JBC also. So this is my standard tooth shade. So she has 5 or 6 of these, ranging from shade 59 to 69, and they're just the same shade. So this is what I used to make this pontic. Ooh, that is bright, isn't it? This is what I used to make this this pontic, and this is the shade that they wanted, and not this shade, or not this shade. So let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, we got some comments. Good vibes. Texas is okay. Yeah, thanks. Life's beautiful. Yeah, it's super hot. We're looking forward to tomorrow. I think it's actually going to get down in the 60s tonight, so we're excited for a little break. Diana Lopez, hello, Retainer Design. Ready to watch today's work. Oh, yes, nice to have you aboard, Diana. Good to see you here. So yeah, we got a challenging one for us today. Let me add a little bit of light so I can see. Zoom in a little bit. All right, so now, just to recap a little bit, usually I can take one of these off and grind it into place, but again, this was the wrong shade, and I didn't carry the right shade, so I made a mold of that tooth using my putty, and I poured it up in the right shade using my tooth-colored powder that I got from JBC. And so now I'm just going to grind this into place and put my mask back on. Again, usually I do this under, I hear a phone ringing. Oh, spam risk, of course. Those of y'all that live in America, I don't know if y'all have gotten a lot of spam calls lately, but it gets annoying. So I have this, I'm going to grind this into place. So I have I like to use these fine cut burrs. The coarse cut faster, but they have a tendency to grab, and hopefully it doesn't happen today, but hopefully this doesn't grab, but I'll have a tendency to grab and sling your tooth across the room, and you'll lose it. And it's usually right as you're just about to get done with it. So now I'm going to grind underneath the bottom. And I just keep fitting it back, checking all my gaps. I'm just going to shorten this. And I have a death grip on this pontic, so I don't lose it. So I use a little bit. Needs a lot more, actually. Now this does make a mess on your desk, but like I said, I usually use the dust box that we usually trim retainers in, but I felt like doing it here instead of there. This tooth is just a little more bulbous than the other side, so I'll have to change that. There we go. Getting there. I'm going to trim the sides a little bit. I'm going to trim underneath just a little bit. Give me just a little bit of a gap, because I got to get acrylic up underneath it to fit. Yeah, so this is just a different shaped tooth altogether. Now my gum line that I'm recreating here is a little bit too long, so let me shorten that. There we go. Now this is this gum line going around here is a little bulbous, so I'm going to trim that back a little bit. Now I feel like And I like to look down the sides of these retainers to kind of get a feel for how, if it's like sticking out more than the others. So I'm just going to taper this a little bit on the facial, just trying to keep it as round as possible. I mean, I'm not flattening it, I'm keeping it round, but I'm going to just take off some of this facial of this tooth so that it matches better in profile with the other teeth, so that looks better. It's a little bulbous on the lingual too, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But it's not a big deal on the lingual because we're attaching acrylic to the lingual, so it's not going to make a big difference, just the looks of it in the mouth. So right now I was going to say I don't have the upper, but if you want to get really into it, I'm going to take a little piece of wax to hold this in place. See how I got it's a little utility wax there, and I'm just going to hold that in place temporarily, just so it doesn't fall off while I'm checking all the different views of this. And if you want to really make sure you got it, you can fit it against the upper, which this bite is way off. This does not look right. Is this the right? Yeah, that's the right name. Like I said, this is a challenging case. I'm sure the doctor has had a huge challenge with that too. So I am out of occlusion. You probably can't tell, but I'm out of occlusion, so that's good. I don't want to, if you're making a crown or something for crown and bridge, you'd want that in occlusion. You'd articulate it and make sure, your excursions are right and all that stuff. But it looks like this did a pretty good job. I like the profile of it. Tends to blend in nicely. I may flatten it just a bit as I look at it from the top. Yeah, let's flatten it just a bit. I think my camera's moving. What's going on? Why my camera's dying on me? Get back up there. I don't know where it was falling down from. Get back there. My camera clamp thing was sliding on me. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Kind of matches the other side. Now, if you notice, you're missing the 4 on this side. So this is actually the 5, and that's why it looks a little different than this side, because I'm using a 4. 5s have a little more open occlusal surface than this one. And then I look at the top, make sure it's not sticking above the other teeth. It's kind of in line. The cusp tips line up. It's hard when there's not a tooth here to compare it to. And then the profile, make sure it doesn't stick out too much on the profile. Again, the lingual, I'm not too worried about the profile because, again, we're going to be bumping acrylic or attaching it with acrylic right there. So now what we need to do is put some undercuts in here using a different burr that I have. Let's see, let's use this round burr. And this will help with mechanical retention. There we go. So, as you can see, I put a lingual ditch in there, and so acrylic's going to get in there, and it'll get into there and underneath it, and it'll just hold that tooth in. You can do more. The more mechanical retention you can do, the better chance this tooth has for not failing or falling out of the retainer. The other bonus is this is actually a tooth I made here, so it's not as strong as pontic teeth. So these pontic teeth we use are actually made for dentures, and they're used for chewing on. They have it takes a lot more to wear these down. This will wear down a little faster, but you know, this is a pontic and a retainer is not used for chewing because you're supposed to take this out to eat. Hopefully they're taking this out to eat. So I'm not worried about, so this is a lot more like the acrylic I'm going to use to make the retainer. So the chemical bond should be stronger. There goes Pete. Man, Pete. Pete is... So let me clean this off. So we are ready for the next stage, and that is to paint the separator on. So notice I did it last. So whenever I need to trim a pontic, if I trim it, and you saw me putting it back on the model, trimming, putting it back on the model, trimming, put it back. Pete, golly. When I do that, I'll eventually rub off whatever separator I have on there and I have to reapply. So I'll usually just wait anyway for the separator until right before I need to attach that tooth. And so I have my separator here, and I have a brush. And I'm just going to paint a liberal coat. I'm going to paint every single surface that I can. I don't want any acrylic sticking to this model because it will. There we go. Now I'm going to let this dry a little bit. I got a fan over here that is gonna help me to dry. Oh, that's gross. Let me get a paper towel. All right. So again, I can take this while it's drying. This is, I had to make two boxes, upper and lower. So this is anterior and posterior teeth. I just put it in my little box, keep it in my drawer over here. Here's the shade guide that I give to the doctors. Again, this is made by JBC and Company. And these are a shade guide she's come up with. In fact, she's come up with her own deciduous or baby teeth shades here. And of course, too, this is what she wants. They asked for A2 actually. So as many of you know, you have to convert depending. So they asked for A2, which is right here, which is a Vita shade guide. So I just go up here to the ortho shade guide that JBC, and it's 66. And so I grab tooth shade 66 powder and I use that. These aren't exact. I do have an official shade guide like you'd use in Crown and Bridge or Denture Labs. Let me zoom out a little bit. And this is, so I say Priscilla at JBC has condensed all these down just to this. So in ortho, you don't need as many shades as you do in Crown and Bridge and dentures. So she's just blended the most popular ones. So A2 is the most popular one, so she's blended it with some other shades. So those two are pretty close to each other. It's hard to tell. I'm sure the color correction on YouTube is not that good, but those are the shade guides, and I give a bunch of these, and they can pull these out and hold them up against the tooth and find the right shade. And then when they send me the case, they just write down the number on here and send it to me, and that's it for the tooth guide. But I do keep a bunch of teeth in stock. Like I said, I do a lot of anterior. I try not to do that mold technique for the anterior because it tends to be more flat looking whenever I do it. But these have a little bit of a fake enamel to them. I don't know if I can even show you. See, there's like a little bit of a fade. You can't tell, but, or I can't tell on my little screen. So I do have an example of that. Is it still drying? Yeah, it's dry. Let me put my second coat on and let that dry. So like I was saying, a lot of this is these difficult, challenging cases like this are a lot of not just, you most likely have all the skills you need. You just got to remember which order to use your skills. So, just painting it after you do all your pontic grinding, and then you got to wax in the pontic, and then you're ready to bend wire, because I got to bend wire around that pontic. So put that on the fan, and I do have one here that I have made for a doctor, a pontic with a bracket on it. So I actually had to find a tooth that that was as big as this one. There we go. And then I had to put a pontic in it, or a bracket on it. So they're gonna actually put the wire in, and then put the wire into this slot, and then wire it in, or hold it in with a ligature tie, and that'll hold the pontic in place. So that way, when they smile, they're not just missing a tooth. But eventually, when they get out of braces, they'll do a implant there. See, this is just that's just gums right there. That's not an implant. But so this is actually a mold that I filled up with the right tooth shade, and then I pumiced and polished it. So that's why we got a little bit of a shine on there. This one I did not pumice and polish it. You can, and it puts a nice shine on there like a tooth. But we're going to do that when we do the sprinkle it. We'll pumice it when we pumice the whole retainer. So that's that. Beckett, are you bored in there? That's understandable. Why don't you do a picture-in-picture? This is the upper. This actually did have the brackets removed, so you can see it does a pretty good job. So this is the EasyRx auto bracket removal and auto base. So it auto based it. I didn't have to base it manually, and then I did auto bracket removal. So that you can see it does get a little in the posterior. Sometimes it can't figure out the gum line. It does a little bit of fudging the results, but overall, especially on interior, it does a pretty good job. Now I could see a little bit of a bump right there, and so I would actually come in and flatten that bump. It's almost like there we go. I'm just taking off that little bump, and it's just, whatever mathematics they use to calculate the tooth surface, which I'm really surprised how much they can do. I think it's an AI, that artificial intelligence that looks at this and goes, oh, that's a molar, it's going to have a certain radius, or that's a bicuspid, it's going to have a certain radius around the facial, and so it will recognize the tooth surface, and then it'll remove the metal bracket, which it doesn't know it's metal. The scan is just a bunch of data points to the AI. All right, let's get to wire bending. This is done. So I got my separator in there, got 2 coats on it, got them dried. So now I'm going to place my pontic in here. And I'm going to wax it down really good, because I'm going to be bending wire against it. I do not want this thing to shift around on me. So I'm using sticky wax to hold that in. You can see that's a good shot of the undercut there. It's having a hard time focus on this. But let's bend some wire. Did I paint the front of this? I'm gonna paint it just in case. Hey, if you're ever in doubt if you painted your 3D model or not, it's always a safe bet. Go ahead and paint it again. You will not regret it. You'll regret it if you don't. That is for sure. When you got your retainer and it's fused onto the 3D printed model, yeah, you'll regret not taking that extra. Sometimes I've bent all the wires, I've waxed them on, and they're ready to go, but I can't remember if I painted it twice or not, and so I'll peel off all those wires and do it again. Paint it again, wax all the retainers on again. Where's my, here they are. So I have some pliers here. I'm gonna back this up just a bit. Hey Becky, we still got ducks out there? Yeah. A little bit. But oh, the butterflies are hilarious. It's like the butterflies taunt the ducks. I wish you could see it better. But they'll fly around near their head, and the ducks will snap at them, try to get them. But they never can get them. The butterflies are too fast or dodgy, or I don't know. But it's funny that they'll go and chase those, especially the yellow butterflies. So this is my, what I call a continuous rest. It's gonna look a little bit uneven, and that's mainly because this 6 is further up because they took out this 4. So this is the 3, 5, 6, 7, and this is 3, 4, 5 supposed to be there, 6, 7. So it's gonna be just a little off. So I'm just bending this continuous rest onto the 6s. Now the paper script, they didn't have a way. Now, EasyRx, if you're listening, it would be great if the doctors could like actually, you know, extract out a tooth. So like if I'm looking at the paper here, and they're missing a tooth here. Now they do have a thing where you can gray it out and it shows it as missing, but it would be nice if you could actually just take this tooth out and all the teeth shift up. Now they do that for the 8s down here, the wisdom teeth. Those can disappear off the thing, but it'd be nice if like a 4s could disappear and then everything shifts up into the place. I think to me that would communicate to the lab a lot better. Because sometimes we just kind of have to guess, you know, does the doctor want the rest over here on the 7 to kind of match the 6? But since in EasyRx they can actually move the rest over to the 7 if they want. So if they didn't do that, so I'm just assuming they want them on the 6s, even though it's going to be lopsided looking. Now let me turn on my hot glue gun here and wax this down. Okay. So now I use 030 wire and I'm going to bend around that pontic. This is how I make my arch. I just do it by hand. There's other people, there's a turret you can use. I think Steve Zara on Zara Dental Labs channel, he uses a turret, which is pretty cool. And it's just a cylinder, and you can wrap the wire around that cylinder. But I've done it, made these initial arches by hand so many times that I'm just used to doing it by hand now. But it's amazing what you get used to depending on what equipment you have. So again, this is a very unusual case, challenging, because of this pontic is in here. So now I gotta be careful bending wire around it that I don't knock it off. And that's why I put so much acrylic or sticky wax there. And another thing you gotta be careful of when doing these, my hair got in the way, doing these 3D printed models is fuzz or something, that you don't sit there and just rub on it with the wire. It'll take off your. That's one bad thing about the separators that they make for these, is for these 3D printed models, is they rub off so easily. So I'm just gonna mark. I'm just putting it on there, making my mark, making my bend, putting it back on, checking it, making my mark, making my bend. I'm gonna go ahead and bend this. Sometimes I'll leave one side straight as I bend the other. But in this case, since there's a pontic there, I'm gonna go ahead and bend this, which actually is probably a bad idea, because I could easily, when I go to take this off, catch the tooth and fling it off. And then you got to go back and you got to wax the tooth back on, or add more separator. So I just realized I didn't take that bracket off of the tooth. The loop has to go around this tooth. This is the 3, so this is the 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the loop goes around the 4. So I need to take that tooth off, that bracket off that tooth. I didn't do that. So you can see it kind of confused me too, having that missing 4. I didn't think about taking it off that 5. Now I'm not going to have any acrylic on it, but I'm going to go ahead and put separator just in case some acrylic spills on it. I don't want it to stick to the model. So now going around the corner, I'm going to mark the last point that it's touching the tooth. Take my bird beaks here, bend there, and then I'm going to put a mark on my first vertical bend. Oh, see, I almost caught that tooth and popped it off. Now, the angle of this is important. I didn't look very fast, but you can see if I look straight down, if you can see it, it does have a slight flare out to it. It's not going straight down, which I meant to do that. So then when I put my loop forming plier, if I look straight down at it, it's got a slight bend, kick out. Yeah, perfect. So right now it is flared out this way. So this is in 3 dimensions. So you got to worry about it going in and out this way and in and out this way. So I'm going to take my pliers and bend it. So I have it there. Hold this vertically, and I'm just going to move my labial bow like that. And that should help adjust that. Yeah, that adjusted it in. I'm going to flare it out just a little more this way. So I'm going to take my pliers and hold it right there, right beside that 90-degree bend. I'm going to push it out just a little bit. and that's going to flare it out. Okay, good. Now, this having labial acrylic is a blessing and a curse, because you don't have to be 100% exact touching all the teeth, like it's not touching that tooth, because acrylic's going to cover this and fill all that in. But the curse part is you got to make sure that you are level here, because if you're like this, you can't, and you put labial acrylic on there, you can't fix that later. It's going to look crooked under the, but encased in labial acrylic. So I just got to make sure that I am doing this. I'm just kind of bending it. Oh, I went too far on that one, so I'm just going to back it up just a little bit. I'm just pushing it up like that, and put a mark where it's touching the tooth last, or where I want to put that corner, start crossing over the occlusion. Now these labial bows are a little more challenging because when you bend over a canine, it's really just one bend to cross the occlusion. This one it's a little bit of two bends. So you can kind of see my bend, cross the occlusion, and then back down into the acrylic, the lingual. So I'm going to now take that, and we'll bend this forward like that. Well, it's touching, so I'm going to curve that a little bit with my 3-prong. Contour it, I guess. There we go. So see how it's kind of I have it in between the pontic and the ankylosed tooth. There's a little bit of fuzz right there. Let's see if I can get a tool here. Yeah, there we go, got it. And then this side is normal, but you see it's going to look really lopsided, this retainer. So I'm going to put some wax on there. I was just a little bit off on my bending, so I'm going to hold it down with my finger. Oh, it's flaring up on me. Oh, there we go. And then I'm just going to make sure I'm attaching it to the model also with the sticky wax and to the tooth. Just build that whole thing up. I got a steamer. When I get this out of the pressure pile, just steam all that off. So that's about as level. It looks like it's not level because the teeth are tapering off at a different angle here. But what I'm going to do is, since this does have labial acrylic, I don't want the labial acrylic to touch the facial of this tooth. Now, remember how I said usually I don't high shine these teeth that I make using molds. Now, in this case, I should have, because I forgot I'm going to have a wire in the way. It's going to be hard to polish that with the pumice, so I've just added a little bit of complexity to my life by doing that. But we should be good if I don't get acrylic on the facial of this, because I'm putting labial acrylic here. So I'm just going to block this off with some pink wax. And again, I got a steamer. They'll just blast all that off. So next thing, one thing, I like to use hot glue gun for my labial acrylic. I've gone over it in the past. It just helps to remove the labial acrylic, and I can sprinkle faster because I don't have to wait for that to kind of set up, so it won't slump on me while I'm working on the inside. So I'll let that cool. It's not good to sprinkle it right now because, as you can see, it's still cooling down. And I don't put it on, I try not to touch the wax on either side, because that's going to be that it could heat up the wax, and then the wire would actually move on you while you're sprinkling. So that's it for getting this ready for prep. If you want to hang out for a little bit, we got 5 minutes or so. I'll move a camera. I don't know if Beckett, we got any ducks out there, but we could go to the duck cam. No ducks, of course. No ducks. So let me move a camera real quick, and we'll sprinkle this, and now we'll call it quits on that, because I kind of want to show you sprinkling it with a color, and this actually has a color, acrylic color. So let me move a camera. There we go. All right. Woo! Oh, messy area. I got the wrong chair. Let me get my taller chair. These are kitchen counter height chairs. Let me get rid of this paper towel because it's got black glitter on it. Looks like pepper. Zoom out just a tad. Nope. Zoom out just a tad. Nope, that's zooming in. Okay. All right, let me get another paper towel. So we got a clean, nice clean area to work with. Now this is going to be luminary blue, which I have right here. And again, I'm kind of delaying just a bit. Yeah, it's still warm. Now, when this is warm or hot, it's going to make your labial acrylic set up faster. So if you need more time, let that cool. Usually I'm bending a few of them at a time, and I don't have to worry about that, because by the time I get back to the first one, these are nice and cool. But you can see here's shade 62 tooth powder. I was using that for something else earlier today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I think that's pretty cool. Another thing you can do is spray some monomer on it, and that'll help. As the monomer evaporates, it'll help cool that down. So I'm going to use this tinted clear. I like to use that for the labial acrylic. To me, it helps to prevent yellowing of the acrylic. Because as you see, it tends to yellow. That's just regular acrylic, nothing fancy. So they both come out clear. It looks like it's going to come out violet or purple, but it doesn't. It comes out clear. I use this for splints also, which I did 2 nights ago. I was up till like 4 in the morning doing acrylic, doing 2 splints and a bonded RPE and 3 retainers. But it's the splints that took a long time. There's a lot of prep involved. All right, so I think I got that labial acrylic where I want it. And still, even though I've waxed that, I still try to keep acrylic off of that pontic. And I'm gonna put some acrylic powder on it to kind of freeze it in place. And then I'm gonna use regular clear. Hopefully you can see that. Again, if y'all know me, I like to put an underlayment of a clear coat. I usually put the name on this side, but with that ankylosed tooth, it's going to be kind of hard to fit one in there. But hopefully you saw me just put some powder into that undercut area of that pontic. Fill it up. Now, one thing you don't want to do is put color up against that tooth, because this acrylic's a little bit translucent, so any color you put up against that will reflect. So me putting blue right up against the tooth would actually make that tooth look a little bit more gray. There are some labs, and I've done this before, you get some pink denture powder, and you can put it around the base of that tooth and make it look more natural, blend in better. But it also allows you to put a little bit of a buffer zone in between your tooth and your color if they choose to use a color. So I'm going to clear coat this. Add my acrylic. This particular doctor on these cases doesn't like the acrylic to touch the 7s. He likes them just going to the 6s. Let those 7s, free range 7s. So I'm going to take my little, acrylic tool here, and I'm just going to remove some of the acrylic from around it that I don't want touching it. All right, other side. I'm trying to hold this where y'all can see it. You can see how much the wires are away from the tissue, because I know there's going to be some undercuts in this, and I know I probably missed waxing them out. So I've left the wire pretty far away from the lingual, which makes for a thicker retainer, but allows us to what am I trying to say? Allows us to trim on the inside. And speaking of the inside, I forgot to put the name. I'm going to put it on the outside. Usually I put it on the tissue side. If y'all watch my channel, y'all see me, I like to put it on the tissue side. Just it's easier when you're sprinkling acrylic. Just to go ahead and do it so you don't forget. And then you don't have to worry about your thickness. Because if you put a name in a retainer before on the tongue side or the outside, if you made your retainer too thick and then you put your name, you're going to end up grinding your name off trying to thin down your retainer. So I'm just going to put a little bit of clear. And one thing you can do if you do it on the tongue side, like I'm about to, is you can actually take your acrylic tool and you can actually create a little ditch for your name. Like so. Oh, my tweezers are over here. I dropped them. Okay. Let me put the name in here. I know this is kind of off camera, but probably better that way anyway. And I'm just kind of pushing the name into the acrylic. And I'm going to cover it with some clear. Remember, cover it with clear, not color, or else you won't be able to read it. So now I'm just kind of using my acrylic. Any thin spots, I'll just kind of fill in where I think that it's going to be thin. Stop dropping it everywhere. All right, so I'm going to cut my acrylic here. I might have waited too long. Yeah, it's already hardened on me. Usually I cut the acrylic, but I've taken too long. I got to get this in the pressure pot fast. So I'm just going to cut it back here. Again, you'll be surprised how much heat that the hot glue gun holds. That glue will hold heat for a long time. I have taken too long. This is setting up fast. Also, the temperature outside. Even though it's cool in here, it's still the temperature, your atmospheric temperature, really will affect the setup. Yeah, this is setting up pretty quick. Okay, I think I got it cleared, but you can kind of see it's starting to get a little bubbly in there. As long as I built it up thick, it's gonna cure from the outside in, and I can grind off any bubbles that are on there. So into the pressure pot we go. All right, Beck, I'm gonna move this camera. I don't know if we got any ducks out there. Ooh. You see my messy desk. I've been working. We've had a very busy week this week. Okay. So, wrong camera. This one. Oh. Oh, it's too short. There you go. All that just to say goodbye. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps. Sometimes you get these challenging ones, and it's more about the order that you do them in than anything else. You've probably already done pontics before, and you've done labial, acrylic, near pontics, and all that stuff. It's just you kind of got to plan it out in your head a little bit. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to prep the tooth first, and then trim it, put it on the model, and then bend the wire. Oh, I forgot to do the separator. So that kind of thing. You just kind of got to plan it out in your head for some of these challenging cases. Hopefully that mold idea helps you. And that's not even my idea. I got that off of the Facebook group, the ORG Facebook group. There was a lady on there, and she said she makes molds of all of her teeth. She gets a card in with a certain mold, and she'll take molds of it and make her own teeth. Which for us ortho labs, that works out great because our teeth aren't really functional. They're just aesthetic to hold a space to make sure when they smile that it looks like there's a tooth in there, but they don't have to be as functional like indentures and crown and bridge and stuff like that. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I was able to do it this year, hopefully this week. Hopefully y'all caught the podcast yesterday. If not, you can go back and watch the podcast where I interview Phil from Perfect Finish Ortho Lab. And he does a lot of work for orthodontic schools, for ortho residencies. So we got to talk about that and the future and the past of the ortho lab. So I'll put a link in above and you can watch that. It's a good interview to watch. But until then, I will see y'all next Friday. And let me cue up my outro here. Where's my outro? There it is. Okay. Until the next time, happy bending.